Well, good morning. Welcome, everyone. My name is Patrick McCarty. I'm the branch manager for the R.G. Bolden Annabelle Moore Library, which is one of the libraries that make up the Jackson Hinds Library System in Jackson, Mississippi. And I'm just so honored and thrilled to be here this morning to present a very special Veterans Day program. Veterans Day is quickly approaching, and uh, it's a very important holiday for the United States and for the British Commonwealth as well. And gives us an opportunity to celebrate our veterans, those who sacrificed and fought, to preserve our freedom and other liberties, liberties that we oftentimes take for granted. And we need to remember the sacrifices that these individuals made in all foreign wars. And of course, our troops who continue to sacrifice day in and day out for our freedom and security. So without further ado, I want to in this program, I want to sort of delve into the history of Veterans Day, its purpose, as I mentioned, its history and certain monumental and important facts and events that have been instrumental in shaping and molding this all-important and critical holiday. So without further ado, here we go. Alrighty, Veterans Day history. Veterans Day occurs on every November the 11th. It honors the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, which is when World War I concluded. World War I came to an end on November the 11th, in 1918. The 11th day, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, and so that is what it is. The significance of it, the purpose for it, in terms of its history and how it came about exactly. In the United Kingdom, it is referred to as Armistice Day. And so, this is a holiday that is widely celebrated and very, very much revered as well. In 1954, President Eisenhower officially changed the name from Armistice Day to Veterans Day. This was President Eisenhower, who, of course, served during World War I, served during World War II, as well as the Supreme Commander of Allied Forces in Europe. And then, of course, he was elected president in 1951. Elected president in 1952 and served from 1953 to 1961. And so that's when the change was made. In 1968, the Uniform Holiday Bill was passed, which moved the celebration of Veterans Day to the fourth Monday in October. The law went into effect in 1971, but in 1975, then President Gerald R. Ford returned Veterans Day to November the 11th due to the important historical significance of the date. So it was changed in 1968 to the fourth Monday in October and went into effect in 1971, which was 3 years later, and then it was retracted in 1975 when Gerald Ford was president, and it has been November the 11th ever since. So very, very important information, very interesting information as well. Okay, Veterans Day, of course, commemorates all United States veterans and all the various branches of the military, whether it's the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force now, which is the newest branch of the military. I think it actually falls under the Air Force. It's like a subsidiary of the Air Force, but still, all veterans, all individuals who served in our armed forces are commemorated on this holiday. Great Britain, France, Australia, and Canada also commemorate the veterans of World Wars I and II on or near November the 11th. In Europe, Great Britain and the Commonwealth countries, which would be Australia, New Zealand, Canada, etc., it's common in Britain, the United Kingdom, and its Commonwealth to observe 2 minutes of silence at 11 a.m. on November the 11th. So that's a common occurrence, in Great Britain and the Commonwealth as well, the British Commonwealth. In Europe, every Veterans Day and Memorial Day, Arlington National Cemetery, which is just outside of Washington, D.C., in Arlington, Virginia, in Northern Virginia, just right there on the Potomac, holds an annual memorial service. The cemetery is home to the graves of over 400,000 individuals, most of whom served in the military. If you haven't had a chance to visit Arlington Cemetery, it's most certainly worth checking out. I've been on a couple of occasions. I went when I was a child, and I've been since I became an adult. And I actually have some relatives who are buried in Arlington Cemetery, and it's quite a spectacle. It's quite a sight, and again, I strongly encourage you, if you ever find yourself in the Washington D.C. area on vacation, visiting family, whatever it is, I think it would behoove you to visit Arlington Cemetery for yourself. It's very emotional, very moving. Quite a number of historical figures, principally in the military, but not just exclusively in the military, are buried in Arlington Cemetery, including two of our two U.S. presidents, John F. Kennedy and William Howard Taft, among many generals. Of course, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is definitely something that's worthwhile and worth checking out. So it's quite a place, quite a a moving and I think a lasting, touching tribute to our country and our armed forces in particular. 18.2 million living veterans served during at least one war as of 2018. This is a couple of years ago. So I'm not exactly sure what the statistics are for this year in 2020. Again, I'm going off statistics from a couple of years ago, 2018. But I would imagine it would be something somewhat comparable to that. 9% of veterans are women. 7 million veterans served during the Vietnam War. 3 million veterans have served in support of the war on terrorism, which has been the ongoing conflict for almost 20 years now, since 9/11 and the events that followed in terms of the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq and other interventions abroad in the name of in fighting terrorism, principally, of course, in the Middle East. Of the 16 million Americans who served during World War II, about 496,777 were still alive as of 2018. Of course, that is changed, just because this information is from a couple of years ago, and so more World War II veterans have since passed away over the last couple of years, including an uncle of mine who served in World War II. He just recently passed at the age of 94, and so those that are still living, and there are a few, they're not as many, but there are still a few World War II veterans alive. Those who are still living really are, they're certainly in their 90s by now, principally in their mid and late 90s and into 100 years of age or older. But they're really dwindling. It's really becoming. There aren't as many now as there were just a few years ago, and it's really sad because they sacrificed so much and fought so hard for, the preservation of freedom in combating, Nazi Germany and fascist Italy and Imperial Japan, and so it's their sacrifice will never be forgotten, but there aren't as many. Of course, there aren't that many World War II veterans left, sadly. This information is from a couple of years ago. So, Connecticut was home of the highest percentage of World War II veterans as of 2018 at 7.1%. Okay, and this Veterans Day continued, and this is from 2018. 2 million veterans served during the Korean War. As of 2019, now this is a little more up to date. The top 3 states with the highest percentage of veterans were Alaska, Maine, and Montana, respectively. So Alaska, Maine, and Montana, which I find very interesting. Let's see. Okay, now here's the Veterans Day. I'm going to kind of discuss sort of a Veterans Day timeline here, starting, of course, on November the 11th, 1918, which was the armistice that concluded World War I. And again, that was on November, the 11th, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. So November the 11th at 11 a.m. on November the 11th of 1918. The following year, 1919, President Woodrow Wilson proclaims November the 11th as Armistice Day. Woodrow Wilson, of course, was the president who presided over World War I. which lasted from 1914 to 1918. America entered into into the conflict in I believe it was April of 1917, and of course we served. We were involved in the conflict until Armistice Day, which was November the 18th, November the 11th. November the 11th of 1918. November the 11th, 1921, the first unknown soldier is reburied in Arlington National Cemetery. The tomb has the words inscribed, "Here rest in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." So as I mentioned, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, it's definitely worth checking out if you have a chance. I strongly encourage you to do so. Arlington Cemetery is, I can't really stress the importance of just how, how just overwhelmed with emotion one can get. You feel as though time has stood still, and then you're transported back in time. Even it has that effect on one. I find it's very, very strong, and we need to. I can't stress the importance of the significance of Arlington Cemetery and all these various monuments that you'll find in Arlington National Cemetery. Okay, moving along. May 13th, 1938, Armistice Day becomes a federal holiday. So, of course, that was just, the eve of World War II. World War II would begin in Europe the following year in 1939. So this was 1938. And on June 1st, 1954, President Dwight David Eisenhower signs a bill changing Armistice Day to Veterans Day. I covered this in order to include all U.S. veterans. So it wasn't just specifically a day honoring World War I veterans, but a day honoring all veterans. At that time, even in 1954, you had a few Civil War veterans, in fact, who were still alive. So you had veterans from the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, and World Wars I and II, and the Korean conflict as well, the Korean War, which lasted which started in 1950 and lasted through 1953. So you had veterans of all these, and just in general, veterans who served during peacetime as well, not just specifically during some kind of military conflict or war. In the case of the wars that I just outlined, so it was a more inclusive. It became a more inclusive. The purpose of the holiday became more inclusive, more inclusive and more, I guess, a broader sort of objective in terms of the holiday and its significance and meaning and purpose. Okay, May 30th, 1958, unknown soldiers from World War II and the Korean War are reburied next to the unknown soldier from World War I. So that's very, very interesting. 1968, Congress changes, and I covered this earlier, Congress changes the date of Veterans Day to the fourth Monday in October in order to give the federal employees a 3-day weekend. The change began in 1971. That's when it started. That's when it became official. September 25th, 1975, however, then President Gerald Ford, who of course succeeded Richard Nixon on August 9th, I believe it was, of 1974, when Nixon resigned and Gerald Ford assumed the presidency, he became president, and he finished out his term in office. And so, 1975, he changes the date of Veterans Day back to November the 11th, and the date officially began, or the change was officially implemented 3 years later in 1978, when Jimmy Carter was president. May 28, 1984, an unknown soldier from the Vietnam War is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. In 1998, he was identified through DNA test as Michael Blassie, a 24-year-old pilot shot down in 1972 on the border of Cambodia. So that's really, really interesting. So you've had unknown soldiers from all conflicts throughout all wars throughout the 20th century, just about. The 2 world wars, the Korean War and the Vietnam War. And so I know this is, this concludes my Veterans Day program. I have a slideshow that goes along with it. I hope you found it to be very, very instructive and very helpful as a follow along. If you have any veterans in your family or know any veterans, you might be friends with some veterans. Thank them for their sacrifice and their service to our nation. No nation is perfect. We all make mistakes as individuals. We all make mistakes collectively. But our troops, our veterans, gave everything they possibly had to, preserve this country and our institutions and our freedom and what we represent. Again, no experiment, no country, no society is perfect, but our veterans are really a blessing, and really they're individuals that we should revere and cherish and respect tremendously for what they've given, because they sacrificed everything. They sacrificed all for the preservation, freedom, for the society that we have now, for the institutions that have been preserved all this time. They are truly one of the aspects of American society, of the many aspects of our society. Like I said, we're not perfect. No nation is perfect, but one of the important aspects of American society that we should revere and we should appreciate. So if you know any veterans, if you have any friends who are veterans or family members who are veterans, go up there and let them know how much you love them and you appreciate them, and thank them for their service and their sacrifice. I want to mention, if you're interested in any other programs, presentations, events that the Bolden Moore Library specifically, or the Jackson Hinds Library System in general, has have going on, you can always check out our official website, which is www.jhlibrary for Jackson Hinds, jhlibrary.org, or you can even access our various social media platforms, which consist of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. There's a lot of interesting and fascinating information on our various social media accounts. Please we really strongly encourage you to, give us some kind of feedback as to what you thought about this particular program and other programs and everything that we have going on. If you're in the Jackson area, Jackson metro area, we still have we have certain services that are provided upon reservation, upon appointment. We have some computers that are available. We have our fax machine that is available. We have our copy machine that is available, our copy machines available. And we're now allowing our patrons to browse our collection up to about 30 minutes. All that information and everything else, anything that you're interested in, any questions or concerns or anything dealing with the library system, the Jackson Hinds library system, please just, I can't strongly encourage you enough to, I can't strongly encourage, the website that we have, which should answer any questions that you may have, but, always feel free to give us a call, and we'll do everything we can to ensure that any question or situation that you have, in anything, is resolved and answered. But as always, I can't thank you enough for your participation here and for your attendance. And I hope you all have a wonderful Veterans Day. May it be the best Veterans Day ever, and a wonderful upcoming Thanksgiving holiday as well. We're going to continue. We're going to have some Thanksgiving programs here that are scheduled, as well as some programs that coincide with the holiday season, which is next month. So again, this is Patrick McCarty with the R.G. Bolden Annabelle Moore Library and the Jackson Hinds Library System. And I appreciate your attendance and your participation. And may you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.